What's up, interwebs? It's me, XoXo, and today I'm giving you the first of a new series I'm gonna call Let's Talk About. The title is pretty self-explanatory, so without further ado, let's talk about Bethesda and Game of Thrones. Bethesda and Game of Thrones. Two names that are synonymous with nerd and gaming culture, and both of which are so successful, arguably, because they're able to reach beyond those cultures. I've known many people that don't fit the nerd or gamer bill, but have gotten into Skyrim. Even gamers that aren't really into RPGs are able to sink their teeth into Skyrim and get hopelessly addicted. Similarly, Game of Thrones has managed to murder, deceive, and sex its way into the hearts and minds of viewers that aren't even into medieval fantasy. So why is that? And why does the combination of the two spark such visceral, loin-smashing excitement from the communities that love both? Why are we here? What's the meaning of life, XoXo? Well, hopefully I can answer at least one or two of those questions. But first, let's talk about why we're talking about this in the first place. For me, I was perusing GameSpot, as I do many times a day, and a headline popped up along the lines of "Details of a possible Bethesda/Game of Thrones game leaked," to which I promptly shat myself, and being too excited to change pants, I feverishly tapped the link. It appeared as though someone had provided an image of a Target webpage that displayed a future product titled Bethesda Game of Thrones. And that's all it took. That simple image put the idea that the marriage of these two behemoths was happening, and that their incredible and awkwardly animated love child would one day fly into our living rooms on a dragon, Baratheon warhammer in hand, ready to yet again render our lives in the outside world null and void. And then the news breaks that it's likely a hoax. But it doesn't matter, because the idea is out there now. And it's something that I think fans of both have dreamt about long before the image leaked, and will continue to dream about regardless of whether it happens or not. But let's take a step back. We know why those two becoming one are so exciting, but why do they have broader mass appeal? Skyrim does a lot of things right. It tells a great story, with around 60,000 lines of voice-acted dialogue, beautiful graphics that, with simple enhancements and tweaks, still look beautiful 6 years later, and the gameplay is simple, but can grow in complexity depending on how the player decides to play. There's political intrigue, love, loss, and everything in between. It's sort of like playing a movie, and while there's a main storyline that's around 5 or 6 hours long, there are hundreds of quests that are sprinkled throughout the land for you to approach in thousands of ways. People are still playing the game today. Hell, I'm still playing the game, and I'm that guy who bought it back on 11/11/11 when it came out on the 360, then again on PC so I could go to Mod Town, then again on Xbox One when it was remastered, as you may remember from my review, and because I'm a masochist, I'll be getting it again on the Switch. Skyrim on the go without a giant laptop? Come on! I'm getting a little off topic, but the point is, the craftsmanship is so good, and the gameplay is simple but near limitless in the combinations of ways to play that you don't have to be a hardcore gamer to enjoy it. Even with its bugs, the game is charming and addicting, and the sense of accomplishment you get from visually witnessing your character grow, be it with gear that you've stolen from a group of bandits whose camp you snuck into, or by defeating a dragon, or by crafting it, or by rising through the ranks of one of the prominent guilds and becoming its leader. They're all ingredients to a recipe that millions of people can put in their mouths. Terrible analogy, but you get the point. Game of Thrones is similar in that it's well crafted, the political intrigue is never ending, and it catches you off guard all the time. The production values of the show are so good, and the story so engrossing that when people give it a chance, they tend to get sucked in. And even though it's in a fantasy realm, the actors play their parts with such conviction that they seem real. I know that sounds silly because that's acting, but acting isn't always great. In Game of Thrones, I would argue that the actors in the show are so convincing that I rarely hear people referring to Kit Harington as Kit Harington. For better or worse, he is and always will be Jon Snow. And because they're so believable, the trials and tribulations they deal with on screen are so personal and devastating, it's like a train wreck. You can't look away. And because you become so involved in the plethora of characters' lives, you feel personally vested in wanting to see resolutions. There's drama, there's action, there's sex. It's like NC-17 Lord of the Rings, people. But I believe that Game of Thrones and Skyrim appeal to many audiences because they both do a great job of reaching out of their genre's comfort zones. And they're not afraid to be unorthodox in the way the stories are told, and in killing off key players that ordinarily live happily ever after. I think the combination of the two is so exciting because if you're a fan of both, you know how engrossing living and breathing in Skyrim can be, and to take that experience into Westeros, in any time period in Westeros' dense history, could be unimaginably fun. Imagine, from a first-person perspective, storming through the breached southern wall on the island of Pike, with Thoros and his flaming sword charging through in front of you, or being part of Aegon's conquest. What if you got to choose the the area of Westeros you were born in, and you play a bastard who ends up being part of a major bloodline. The possibilities are endless, and my brain can't handle that level of awesome. I just think that even if this is a hoax, Bethesda should take notice. Todd Howard probably has the next 10 to 20 developmental years plotted out, and if this isn't part of that plot, he should heavily reconsider. Not just for the immense amount of money the project would make, or how successful it would be, but because we would finally get to plant our feet into Westerosi soil in an impactful way and take an arrow to the knee. Thanks so much for watching. You guys are amazing as always. I'll see you next time. Later!